What's up guys, and welcome back to the Bonsai-En YouTube channel. I'm Josh, and today I'm going to show you the effects that strategic pruning can have on your bonsai, so stick around. Alright guys, so what I have here is an Australian native tree. This is our Melaleuca, and this particular one is the Alternifolia. So what I want to show you today is the effects that strategic pruning can have on your bonsai, and I feel this is something that a lot of people miss out on. Now this is something that we teach in our beginners online fundamental course. We teach people how to strategically prune, when not to prune, and the effects that that will have. But I just wanted to show you this tree because it's a good example of what we've been doing over the last couple of years to build structure on the tree, and you'll see how that branch structure is starting to turn out. Now, I know right now it looks like it's bushy and you're probably thinking, well, it doesn't look like there's any structure at all to that. But what I'm going to do is bring the camera in closer to show you, and we're also going to do the next stage of that strategic pruning, and I'll show you what I mean about what we're going to leave, what we're not going to leave, and I'll take you through my thought process on that. So what I'll do is I'll bring the camera in a little bit closer, we'll have a look at some branches and make some cuts and leave some stuff on, and we'll explain why. Alright, so this tree is quite difficult to record, so I've gone handheld with my phone for a little bit, so bear with me if it's going to be a little bit shaky and the quality is going to be a little bit less than what you're used to on this channel, but it's a little bit easy to film like this. So what I want to do is I want to show you this first branch. Well, actually this is the second branch on the tree here, but it's a good example. So if I just spin this around, you can see where the branch is on the tree here. Okay, our first branch is this guy over here. This is our thickest branch, and this is our second branch on the tree on the outside of this the curve just here. So if I spin this back around and look back down in here, so what we can see is where the branch leaves the tree here. We've got this first division here that comes off, okay, that we've been growing, so all that foliage is just here. And then as we come up, we've got two here. So this is obviously something that I missed last year because I wouldn't usually allow this to happen, having two branches growing right next to each other. And then we have the branch that continues on out here. So what the original plan should have been is this branch here, and then it staggers over to this branch here, and then it staggers over to out here. So this shouldn't be here. And the reason why is I don't know if we're going to be able to capture this on camera. Oh, actually you can see it quite well there. See this big lump here? This is caused by having these two branches right next to each other. And if we leave these any longer, then this lump is going to get bigger and it's not going to look any good. Now, we can work this lump back a little bit. That's going to be fine for now, but we're going to want to get rid of this one. And the reason why I say this one is, like I said before, because we're staggering the branches. So we've got one on this side, then we've got one on this side, and then we've got one on this side. And this area just in here, we'll be able to fill this gap with the foliage from this. So we're not going to have a huge gap in here. And that's why we leave these spaces for different branches. So if we're going to strategically prune, we're going to prune this one off. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this branch here that we're growing. So you can see, now let me just refocus just here. If the thing's going to let me, there we go. So, this branch that comes off here. What we need to do with this one is we still... Oh, we've got to focus again, hang on. There we go. So we've got to let this growth elongate. And the reason why is because if we see down in here, where the branch is, this branch where it leaves the main structural branch, we don't want it to be this thin because it looks a little bit funny. We need it to be slightly thicker like this one is. This branch looks more like it belongs to this than this does. So at the moment, we're not going to prune the end of this branch. We're going to let it keep growing so that this thickens out. So on this branch, we're going to cut this one off. We're going to allow this one to grow. And then also out here, you can see that we've got a whole ton of little shoots out here. I know the foliage on this tree is quite messy, but you can see we've got a whole ton of shoots out here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these back to the two that have the most acute angle and the two that are pretty much about the same strength. So these two right here, these are probably good candidates, this one and this one. So if we cut back to that, because we don't want a whole plethora of these growing here, because once again, we're going to get this swelling that we don't want that's here. So we're going to cut these back, we'll cut this back, and we're going to let this one grow. But on this branch as well, we're also going to inspect, and anywhere where there's, you know, more than two in any location, we're going to cut them back as well so we can avoid this type of swelling on this branch as we let it grow. So what I'll do is I'll set up the static camera again, I'll go through and do that work, and hopefully we can capture it. Alright, so this is the branch that we want to cut off here, so I'm just going to come in with my branch cutters, nice and sharp, and make a nice clean cut, and get rid of that guy. And already we've opened up a ton of space in here, so all this foliage from here can come in and we can start developing that into that area just there. Alright, so now we've got this branch to deal with. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off these little suckers from the base here. So that just cleans up the front part of the branch there. Now, we want to keep this here, and I'm not going to cut any of this off because I want this to grow and thicken so that we can grow it evenly with this one, but we still keep that taper. So I will keep an eye on it, but if I keep the rest of the growth on the end of this one, then this one shouldn't overtake this one in theory. But it's always worth just watching anyway. But the next thing that we'll want to do is as we move up the branch, sorry that my hand's in the way there, we want to do some selection here. So we've got this little guy, this little guy, this little guy, and then we've got this branch up here going out here. Now most of the time you'd probably think, well, actually I'm just going to quickly get rid of this one so we can get some of this growth out of the way. So most of the time people would probably keep this one because it's thicker. But you can see how big of a gap we've got between this branch and this branch here. Now, I don't want to keep this one just because it's bigger when it's going to cause this big gap between this branch and the next one. As we ramify this tree, we want our branches to be nice and tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this one because it's pretty close to this and we don't want to end up with that swelling. So that guy's gone. I'm also going to get rid of this one because it's too far away. So it's gone. And you can see that out of those ones, it was the thickest one. Now, once again, this guy creates a bigger gap than this one between this branch. So I'm going to get rid of that one and I'm going to keep this and let it grow. That way now when we get ramification, we come up here, we've got this branch, and then we've only got this small little gap here before we're going to hit our next one. Now that means that there's actually a bit of growth on the other side of it there, which it's probably hard for you guys to see, but it's right here, so we're going to get rid of that so we don't end up with swelling at that junction. And now we've got this. This will be our first bit of ramification and this will be our second bit. So we're going to let this guy grow until he gets to something like this. You know, we might let him grow right out really, really long. So as we move up the tree, or up the branch, now we've got another division just here and one just here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one off, but we're just going to leave the end of this grow right out. Now I know you can't see, but it goes right out of frame, but it's really long. And what we're going to use that for is to grow the thickness just here, even though we're eventually going to come back and we're going to cut just here. And then that's where our ramification is going to be. And then we'll repeat these same processes again once these branches grow out. So we'll let this one grow out long, we'll select some branches, we'll come back and we'll do all this cutback work. But you can see how you need to be strategic about where you prune. You don't want to just prune anything off willy-nilly. You need to look forward to the future and go, okay, well, I'm going to want to branch here and I'm going to want to branch here, and I don't want to keep this one just because it's thicker when I can keep this one and have a small internode. So just keep that in mind. Alright, so it's just a short video today, but as you can see, I've gone through and done that work on the rest of the tree, so it's looking a little less full now, a little less shaggy. We've gotten rid of the stuff that we don't really need and we don't want to grow. We've gotten rid of some problem areas, and we've left some areas on so that we can thicken up growth. So we've got this up here, we've got the apex that we're leaving on so we can thicken that up. But what I really want you to take away from today's video is, when we prune our bonsai trees, we really need to know why we're pruning our bonsai trees. And not only just why in a sense of, okay, well, it's grown, so now we need to cut it back, but also why in a sense of, if we've got a particular branch, why am I cutting this one off, but why am I leaving that one on? If we don't understand that, then we have a hard time building our tree, because we don't know to leave shoots on to thicken a branch, and we don't know to take shoots off to prevent swelling, or even little things that, if you've got, branches that are close to each other, in a situation like this, you might keep a branch on the outside of this one rather than a branch on the inside of this one, because if you keep a branch on the inside here, it's going to interfere with this branch here. So then we would keep the branch on the outside of this one and get rid of this one. So just little things like that really help with your bonsai design. Now, if you want to learn about pruning more in depth, we do have our online beginners course over at thebonsaidojo.com. It's super cheap and super informative, and it's going to really help you out with a lot of stuff like this. Not only pruning, but fertilizing and wiring and all that kind of stuff. But I hope that little demonstration there opens your eyes a little bit more to how we prune, why we prune. The course will take you through when we prune and all that kind of stuff. But hopefully this will make you think a little bit more next time you sit down with your bonsai tree with a set of bonsai scissors and start pruning, because the pruning that you're doing now could be detrimental to your tree rather than adventitious to it. And there are other reasons why we might prune as well. Things like to get back budding or to open light up to the interior of the tree. There's a lot of reasons why we might prune or why we might not want to prune. So you really do want to learn those things in depth. But until next time, enjoy your bonsai journey.